No, sir.
So one question, so how, if I type something on the chat, is it visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So how do you make that happen? Because I have one more class. In that class, this is not there. Is there any settings I have to change? Are you seeing my message? Good morning.
Yes.
Yes,
Sir.
sir. Sure.
Yes, sir.
So anybody knows how to, because I have one more class. In that class, I am not able to send these messages, or these recordings are not visible. So whenever I record, I think whenever one of you record, it is available to everyone, right? They can download it from.
Yes, sir. Are you
Yeah.
added to that?
I didn't hear. Am I?
So, have you been added to that group? Like, if you're a guest, then you might not be able to send a message or record.
Okay. I am able to record. Okay. So let me check. So if it's a guest, it is not possible.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Okay. Yes, let me check. Okay. Anyway, let us start our discussion. So in the last class, we were discussing about the stability. Is my slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So in the last class, we were discussing about this gimbal or stabilized platform. Basically, there are two types of inertial navigation, basically based on how the sensors are placed in the system. In one of the case, the sensors are mounted on a platform which remains stable throughout the flight of the spacecraft. So in another case, these gyros, whatever you are showing, will be directly mounted or strapped down onto the launch vehicle. That is the other case. So in the gimbal platform system, we started with an assumption that there are a set of 3 gimbals. The outermost gimbal is directly fixed to the launch vehicle, and then these gimbals are friction free. That is the first assumption we made. If the gimbals are friction free, then the central platform is free. Free in the sense it will remain in the same orientation as it was when you began the flight. So that was the statement we made. And then why this is required is whenever you have a launch vehicle, and then if you want to know what is the acceleration with respect to the initial coordinate system, when you fix the initial coordinate system, that is behaving like your inertial coordinate system. So if you want to measure the acceleration with respect to that, why do you want to measure with respect to that initial coordinate system? The reason is suppose you are there is a particular location with respect to which you want to find out the position. So therefore you need a coordinate system which is with respect to that initial coordinate system. So it is an inertial coordinate system also. The platform actually maintains the orientation in the inertial space. So if the earth is rotating, so you would notice that this platform will not be aligned to the earth. So it will be with respect to wherever you started it initially in the inertial frame. And then the accelerations are required in the inertial frame. Therefore, this system helps you to compute the acceleration in the inertial frame. Then by double integrating, you can get the position which you are interested in. However, we noticed that in general, the gimbals may not be friction free. So there is some friction there. So this, due to the non-zero friction here, what would happen is the centralized platform will show some rotation effect when the spacecraft is moving in the space. So these rotations are measured by the gyroscopes, and then they are corrected using the roll motor, pitch motor, and the azimuth motor. The motors are also placed along the gimbal axis. So when you can compensate it, so this compensation has to happen at a faster rate than the requirement of your acceleration information. So this is, you require a very high bandwidth control. High bandwidth in the sense very fast control is required for maintaining the orientation as close to the inertial frame as possible when the spacecraft is moving. In addition to that, if you place rotation encoders along these axes, the angle with respect to the inertial frame can also be measured. So it helps two purposes. You can measure the orientation with respect to that initial inertial frame, and also the acceleration will give you the position with respect to the initial inertial frame. So these were very popularly used until few years ago. Once the computational techniques became very good, people started using body mounted inertial measurement unit. We will also study more about this as we go further, the disadvantages and advantages. This is just the beginning. So angle encoders, this is just the explanation whatever we mentioned now. Angle encoders are placed at the gimbal rotor locations. Friction in the rotor locations need to be estimated and compensated by opposite rotation. The compensation quantity can also be used for angular rate estimation. So depending on this, you have to calibrate on the ground. So we will discuss this when we discuss about the servo. So gimbal platform system, I have shared the video. Let me check if I can. I will show you an example YouTube video, but I have also shared. Okay, I will show you a simple example, which is just a moment. Let me unshare and reshare this. Stop sharing. So this system you can also build at your home. So I hope the video is visible. Is the video visible? YouTube?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so look at this. There is a centralized platform there which is stable irrespective of the movement. So don't worry about how they have done it. This is, you may also do it. So this is using the IMUs. If you have a block inside your, you can use, what is that? It's just a simulation what they showed earlier. So this is the platform. So some of you can build this in the during the lab, such things. Okay, so that is the stable platform. Irrespective of the outer rotation, you can see that the platform was maintained stable. So I won't go too much into this. I will just to mention that such thing is possible. If you thought, how is that possible? So how? Okay, so any questions on that? So there are actually whatever we explained here, the conceptually here those were implemented. These are actually closed gimbals. What was shown in the figure was open gimbals. You need not completely have the circular rings. You can have semicircles and things like that. That's what was done in the figure. Sorry, in the YouTube video.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, if we left this gimbal on Earth, would it rotate and detect gravity of Earth?
That will depend on the, you would say instead of gravity, you should say rotation rate. So
Yes,
yeah, these are actually very crude gimbals. It's not very precise enough. So these gimbals cannot detect it. Basically, it will depend on the sensor measuring unit which you have. If you use a normal IMU, the rotation sensor in your system, that will not be able to detect Earth's rotation. It is not sensitive enough. 2 pi radians in 1 day is a very small value for these MEMS sensors. You need very good sensors, that is servo based mechanisms. those things can detect it. Yeah, using that you can do, but using the MEMS sensors you cannot.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Okay, that is the first thing that comes to the mind. But we have to also remember that the values which was shown in the figure is actually a very high rotation rate. When he moved the hand, those rotation rates are very large for a spacecraft. It's almost 90 degrees in 1 second or something like that. But Earth's rotation rate, you can imagine 360 degrees in 24 hours. So if you divide, you will notice that the rotation rate is very, very small for the sensors to detect. But there are sensors which are used in the launch vehicle. They can detect Earth's rotation. So we will be mentioning in names of a few of them. Okay, so how do you implement this stabilized platform system? This is a schematic. So there are a set of 3 gyros which are placed on the platform. There is something called null loop. Null loop is basically the one which is keeping the platform stable. You are keeping the platform near as, see, the intention is the gyros should measure as near 0 value as possible. That is done by keeping the platform stable. And then the acceleration are also placed on the accelerometers are also placed on the platform. So symbolically, the gimbals are shown in the center and the platform is not shown, but you can imagine somewhere in the center. So the gimbal angles indicate the orientation. That is the angle with respect to which the spacecraft is now. And then the gyro torquing is basically looking at the gimbal rotation rate or the gimbal angle. So you have to rotate it back such that it is in the 0 position. So that is what is done here. And then once you know the acceleration, you simply have to do integrations. That is, the navigation computer applies these integrations. There is something called Coriolis in gravity. We will discuss it. We will write down the equations for them as we go along. So we estimate the position, speed, and the attitude. Attitude is directly obtained from the gimbal angles. So the gimbal rates are used for providing the gyro torque. Okay. So let us now look at the strap-down navigation system. In the case of strap-down navigation system, the sensors are directly mounted onto the body. There is no platform which is stabilized. So therefore, what would happen? The accelerations measured are with respect to the body frame at that instant of time. Now the question arises, then why do we call them as inertial sensors now? So you have to imagine instantaneously there is an inertial frame which is attached to the body, and then with respect to that particular frame, the measurements are done. Is there any question? Does someone wants to ask something? Your mic is switched on. Okay.
Sir, your voice is not clear. Can you repeat like what you said? Noise came, that's why.
Okay, yeah. So in the strap-down navigation system, the sensors are directly mounted onto the body of the spacecraft at orthogonal axis, of course, and then the measurements are done. However, the accelerations which are measured is now with respect to the body. That means at any instant of time, whatever acceleration the body is experiencing, it is that acceleration which is measured. That is, acceleration, the frame also changes. When the orientation of the spacecraft changes, the orientation also has, sorry, when the orientation changes, what would happen? The acceleration measured is with respect to this new orientation. So we no longer directly get the inertial measurement with respect to the initial coordinate system. The initial coordinates is ideally what is required is our navigation will be with respect to the initial coordinate system, whatever we began with. So in order to compute that, we have to do additional computations. So instead of maintaining the platform using mechanical methods, what we are going to do now is we will be maintaining a simulated platform using computational techniques. So how do we do that? You imagine that the spacecraft is moving in this from the launch pad to the orbit, and then let us imagine at every instant of time we have broken the time into some discrete pieces sufficiently small enough. Let us say every 1 second we do. Actually, we have to do every 20 milliseconds or something. Let us assume at every 20 milliseconds we do this. So at those instant of time, the orientation of the spacecraft and then is not known. So how do you compute that orientation? You only know the rotation rates. So let us say we began at T1 or T0, let us say we began at T0 and then we reached the T1. So at T0, whatever was the gyro reading, up to T1 you integrate it. So when you integrate it up to the T1, you get the angle. So because gyros are measuring the rotation rate, the angle per second. So degrees per second is being measured by the gyroscopes. So at T0, if you do the measurement, you get the rotation rates, and at T1 you do one more measurement. So T0 to T1 you obtain the orientation when you do the integration. So once you know this orientation, now you should imagine from T1 to T2. So at T1 you know the rotation rates. When you integrate it up to T2, you get the orientation. So you just have to accumulate these orientations to obtain the final orientation. In addition to that, at T1, what is happening is, we will discuss this in detail later on. I'm just giving you a quick glimpse of what is happening. At T1, at T0, the acceleration measured is with respect to the initial coordinate system. However, at T1, the acceleration measured is with respect to the new coordinate system, which is at the time T1. But what is the orientation at time T1? It is done by integrating the gyroscope values, which was measured at T0. So this orientation, since you know the orientation, you can always apply this coordinate transform to obtain the actual acceleration at the initial and inertial coordinate system. So this is what is done. So what is done is the accelerations and the gyroscopes are measured at T0, T1, T2, T3 and so on. And at every Ti, whatever is the orientation, you accumulate it from the past and then you combine it as one big orientation. That is a transformation matrix, and you transform the accelerations which are measured at Ti and then take it back to the initial coordinate system. So this is what is done. So what you are effectively doing is you are having the computers maintaining your platform. Computers means you are computing the platform orientation by the measurements which are done by the strapped down inertial sensors. Okay, I know it is going to be difficult to imagine so fast, but I will just pause for a few minutes, a minute or so to take some questions here. This is an important thing I have mentioned. If you just understand the approximate technique, that is enough. Later on, we will go into the detail. You have broken down the time into smaller pieces. At each instance, you are measuring the gyroscope values, which are measuring the rotation rates and the accelerations. The acceleration measured are not with respect to the initial coordinate system. So you have to do a transformation. The transformation has to be done by integrating the gyroscope values. The gyroscope values indirectly indicates what is the orientation which has accumulated over the past. So you have to keep on accumulating, integrating, and then every instant of time you have to transform the acceleration to the initial coordinate system and then apply it to estimate the position.
Sir, if the accelerometer is mounted on the body, like how will it take the body's acceleration then?
If it is mounted on body, body acceleration only will be taken. No, if the body you have to, that's why I said instantaneously, you assume that at a Ti, there is an acceleration applied to the body. So if the time is small enough, then with respect to the body, you have a coordinate system. So that is your inertial coordinate system now. So you have instantaneous inertial coordinate system with respect to which the accelerations are measured. And that is valid only for that very small period of time, assuming you are not having very fast variations. If you have very fast variation, you have to break the time down into much more smaller units of time. So it is like instantaneously you have inertial coordinate system. But that orientation is with respect to the body. So that is what we typically call it as body rates and body acceleration.
Okay, sir.
It's an approximation, like infinitesimally small. Any other questions? We will touch these concepts back. This is only the beginning. So yes, instead of everything else is same here, you can see that the central block is replaced by a computer instead of a platform. The platform's job is done by the computer. So yes, so you have accelerometers and gyroscopes mounted onto the body. So periodically you are computing the angles, that is the delta theta angles, and then you are using the accelerations, and then those accelerations are transformed to the initial coordinate system, and then you compute the position and speed and attitude using the usual integration. There are some compensations you have to do. We will touch upon that later. The gravity and the Coriolis. If the platform is moving, and if you want navigation with respect to a moving frame, then you have to apply this Coriolis compensation. Okay, in the beginning you have vehicle axis. That means the coordinate system with respect to the vehicle is the orientations in which the gyroscopes and the accelerometers are making measurements. And then on the right hand side, you have computed the fixed axis through these transformations. Periodic transformations are applied. So we have to understand how the gyroscope rate will give rise to the orientation estimate. We will come to that. Basically, the roll pitch yaw with respect to the inertial coordinate system, we have to define it carefully. And then we have to find out something called as the attitude kinematics. That is, by knowing the omega, how do you compute the angles? Whatever that angle is. Instantaneous angle you can compute, but the difficulty is you have to compute the angle with respect to the initial coordinate system. So that is where these complex equations will come into play. We will be deriving those equations also. So this is basic explanation for strap-down system. So the platform is replaced by computer. That is the key. Okay, any questions? If you do have no questions, I will just mention what are these inertial sensors. The main inertial sensors are accelerometers and gyroscopes. In the gyroscopes, there are two things. Rate gyroscopes, which measures the omega or the angular rate, that is degrees per second, and then rate integrating gyros measure directly the angle. We have already seen you can measure directly the angle or the rotation rate. So accelerometers simply measure the linear acceleration, which is the rate of change of velocity, which we know. So typically gyroscopes there are many types of gyroscopes also, depending on how you manufacture them. Mechanical gyroscopes are right now used in ISRO's PSLV and GSLV. And then there are gas bearing gyroscopes to make it noiseless. Bearing, basically the bearing is, instead of mechanical bodies touching each other, it will be filled with gas. They are quieter. They are used in Hubble telescopes. These are okay. I'm not going to details of any of them. Maybe some brief mention we will do later on. Then you have something called vibrating structure gyroscopes. If you have a vibrating tuning fork or something, these also can be utilized to realize a gyroscope. We will mention, we'll talk about that as we go further. Then there is something called optical gyroscopes, ring laser gyroscopes, and fiber optic gyroscopes. In modern spacecrafts use these because mechanical gyroscopes have lower lifetime. So India is also developing these laser gyroscopes. So yeah, let us look at few of them. The mechanical accelerometer working principle. You imagine the outer body, which is shown like a C, the frame, to be mounted onto the spacecraft. Then this one, the mass is allowed to freely move in the up-down direction. There is a spring and a damper system. Both are required because once that spring motion starts, you should be able to damp it. So if you imagine the spacecraft is moving either up or down, if the spacecraft moves up, so what is the direction in which the mass will move? Spacecraft moves up means the frame moves up. If the frame moves up, what is the direction in which the mass will move? Can one of you?
Downward, sir.
Down. Very good. So that motion, if you know how much down it has moved, then you will know what is the input force. So which can be used to indirectly measure the acceleration. And if the spacecraft moves down or the frame moves down, then the pointer moves up. So this is a very simple representation of the accelerometer. There are pendulous accelerometers which are more commonly used now. And then there are other additional principles which are applied. You try to keep the mass near the zero as possible by applying some compensatory forces, which is called servoing. We will also discuss about that. Okay, so gyroscope, I think I should show you something because it is slightly, let me, there I can show you the session also. Just let me check. Maybe this one. I have not seen it, but this is an interesting thing. Just a moment, let me share it now. Are you seeing the screen?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah, I will increase the size also. May help. You can see you have a set of gimbals are there, outer gimbal. I think these are not moving gimbals, they are fixed gimbals. Okay, so here the concept of conservation of angle. Okay, I think this is not useful to us. I will change it. What I wanted to show you is how the precision happens when you so that is the concept which is used to explain the measuring gyroscopes precision technique. Where is it? Just one moment, still looking into that. This also is not so good. There's one very good video I had long time back. It is uploaded, but I am not able to locate it here. I cannot open the uploaded one. I am still searching. Maybe I will show the simpler one then. Okay, so let us. Okay, I will show you the simpler one.
Motors, and they are glued to this metal triangle. We also have a couple of batteries to each motor,
So
some inertia are and the whole thing. So we're using the professional circuits to blow, and I will connect the motors.
So he has spun the system.
As you could see, the whole thing rotates also in counterclockwise direction. And remember, there is no air blowing from the motors. This is just due to the gyroscopic effect. Now I will make the connections so that both motors now rotate in the other direction, that is, both will rotate in clockwise direction. And now,
Yeah, okay. I think this also does not directly go into the basic principles. There is one particular video where no, I'm not able to locate it. So maybe I will explain it in the figure later on. Since the video is uploaded, you can use that. Okay, unnecessarily we are spending too much time on that. Meanwhile, I will try to locate it in the video. Okay, I will use the figure to demonstrate. So this is here the video basically shows how this thing happens. For the moment, try to imagine while I figure out where those videos are. Okay, so you imagine a series of gimbals. Once again, you have the output gimbal, and then the outer gimbal, and then you have the inner gimbal, thin inner gimbal. The outer gimbal is mounted onto the platform. The inner gimbal is free to rotate with respect to the axis, which is indicated as output axis. Okay, just for the moment, just for the moment, take it as granted. So we will also look at some videos to understand this much more clearly. Then there is a spin axis. So there are basically three orthogonal axes. That is something called as the precession axis, then there is something called applied torque axis, and then there is a spin axis. The motor or the rotor is spun along the spin axis. There is only two gimbals, that is the spin axis gimbal, because of which the rotor is rotating, is free to rotate, as well as the output axis gimbal, which is connecting the inner small gimbal, is allowed to rotate. The outer platform is actually rigidly fixed. You imagine a very high speed rotating object at the center, or whatever it is, it's just a rotating object there, and then you try to rotate the axis along the applied torque direction. So you have a spinning axis, and then you are trying to apply the torque, that is, you are trying to rotate the axis. Axis not along the same axis, but along one of the orthogonal axis. So if you try to rotate along the axis which is indicated here, that is the applied torque axis, then you will notice that the gimbal itself will rotate. So that rotation is actually a measure of how much torque you have applied. So just think for a moment, there is a high speed rotating object in the center. There is an inner gimbal which is free to rotate with respect to the outer axis, but you are applying the torque orthogonal to this outer axis along this outer platform, along the plane of the outer platform. Then because the rotor is spinning, that effect will cause the inner gimbal to rotate along the axis called as the output axis. That is, which is wherever it is free to rotate, you will see with respect to that axis there is a rotation. So this rotation is a measure of the applied torque, and that expression is given by the statement here. That is, torque, whatever you are measuring at the output, the input torque which you are applying is actually cross product of precession and the angular momentum of the rotor. If the angular momentum of the rotor is very large, then the precession effect also will be large. Or large or small? I think it will be small, right? Because it is in the right hand side. Okay, so just think about it. Does it sound okay, or you can ask questions? So I will pause here because it's an important concept which we'll be using. I'm not able to locate that.
Sir, your pointer is not working actually, so little confusing.
Okay, so therefore you read it and then rephrase and tell me how you have understood. Then I will be able to know where you have missed. Just try to rephrase yourself. Okay, I think I located this somewhere. Meanwhile, I will try. I'm searching for it. You ask questions, sir, based on that.
The way the world works has.
I'm trying to locate it in the YouTube videos. Okay, I have an approximate video here. Let me show that, then it will become clear. Not the exact one I was looking for, but I have uploaded that in the web page. Sorry, Moodle. Okay, so here it is. I will see. So there are three inner gimbals, and he is trying to rotate the inner one. So the outer most one is fixed. In this case, there are two. Okay, so you can see that It is free to rotate with respect to that axis. Okay, he has not reached the point where he is explaining. He will come to that. Okay. So you can see that the inner gimbal moves. When he tries to change the axis, you can see he is trying to change the rotation axis. When he tries to change the rotation axis, then one gimbal outside rotates in the certain direction. So this is what is mentioned. Okay, he has rotated it. He is pushing the rotation axis directly. So that causes the outer gimbal to rotate. Can you see that? Okay, so this is approximately the video, but I have uploaded a better one there. Okay, now let us go back to this figure now. So you imagine in this particular case, okay, so the mouse pointer is not visible, is it? Okay, sorry, I have to share the. How do you make mouse pointer appear? Any?
Sir, like where are you presenting, sir?
Are you seeing the? I'm using browser Teams.
No,
Is
sir.
that
The platform, like presentation, is it in LibreOffice or PDF somewhere?
This one is PDF. I have uploaded into the Chrome tab because I was not able to directly share it.
Okay, sir. Sir, is there an option of highlight or something?
Let me see. Turn off incoming video.
Sir, we can see a black.
Stop recording. CPAD together mode. Large gallery. Meeting
Not
date.
on Teams, sir. On that PDF viewer, sir.
Oh, on the PDF you are saying.
Yes, sir.
PDF has no options literally because it is opened in the browser. It almost shows no to page present. That's in present. Yeah.
Sir, you are using, I think, Brave. You can use Microsoft Edge. There will be option. Right?
Should I use Microsoft?
Microsoft Edge, sir.
Microsoft Teams, I tried to use it, but in the Linux platform, I was not able to share also. You saw that, no? The last class. Okay, so let us try to do better than that. Let us see. So can you see output axis, applied torque and spin axis?
Yes, sir.
Then there is an outer platform. The outer platform is rigidly mounted onto the spacecraft. So you have to imagine the spacecraft is rotating with respect to input axis. It's only a rotation operation, okay? Only one axis rotation we are talking about. Assume that the spacecraft is rotating with respect to the input axis. There is a torque along the input axis. Can you imagine that?
Yes, sir.
The claim is the inner gimbal, which is free to rotate with respect to the output axis, will show rotation in that axis. That is what you saw in the figure or in the explanation there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we're not able to follow.
Okay. So this is assuming that the rotor is spinning. Okay, if the rotor is not spinning, this effect is not felt. And then the effect is characterized by the equation which is given below. The input torque is equal to the precession, that is what is the rotation effect felt at that axis. Precession means angular rate there. cross product the angular moment. Okay, we will be deriving this equation. Okay, we are not deriving it here. Later on, we will derive this equation. For the moment, you just take this expression. Later on, we will derive how these equations come. So, is it better now?
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, actually, we're not able to follow what you're trying to say, sir, because in videos there is a bit lag, and if you can use some pen or something, it will be really great.
It
Sir.
doesn't. It's not
Sir.
working. No, it's not. No, I'm not able to open it.
Sir, if you can write and explain, I think it would be better.
Yes, sir.
Even that write pad I tried in another class. That is still worse than this one. Writing pad. So we have to change the. Probably it will evolve over a period of time. Okay. Don't know. I think this Zoom was much better.
Sir, you made the presentation in LibreOffice. No, in that maybe you can annotate, I think.
But I am not able to share that. I am able to share only PDFs through the Chrome tab. Chrome tab will not open the LibreOffice.
Can you share the entire screen?
So you can share the entire screen, sir. In that way, maybe.
Entire screen in the sense, this is not full screen, is it?
There is an option called share your entire screen, I think.
No, that did not work actually. If you remember last time, that's what I was trying. Let me try again. Let us stop it now. Let me share again. Entire screen. Let us see. Are you able to see something?
Sir, it is
No,
loading.
it's only a black screen.
Yeah, so that is the reason. It is saying it is sharing something. What is it sharing? No one knows. Is there any other way? Window is there. Are you saying something now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now.
Yes, sir. Now
Yes,
we can
sir.
see the entire screen.
Now, is the mouse visible?
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Okay, so I should share the window instead of tab. Okay, so you have the
You can try
screen,
writing here, sir.
but this will not write, no?
You can open something called Whiteboard. There's a website called whiteboard.io or something. You can
So that
search for
will allow
whiteboard and
okay, let me see if I can. Are you seeing my screen now? What are you seeing now?
Chrome,
the
sir.
Chrome.
Only the Chrome tab, right? Are you?
Sir,
Chrome window.
Yes, only Chrome.
Yeah, so that it shows only the Chrome tab. Just a minute. So you can see that it is not able to see anything else other than the browser. Okay, so I think we will pause here and I will see if I can get something else to be done by next week.
Sir, so can you use online whiteboards?
What is that?
There are some website which will provide the whiteboards to write on that.
But it won't help. How will it help? Because I am not able to share any windows other than.
Sir, you can
You
open
can
a
share
new
this,
tab, sir.
In Chrome, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hmm?
In Chrome, in new tab, you can open the whiteboard.
In Chrome, I can open. Okay, okay. Yeah, I will try that. Yeah, next class I
Sir?
will do. Yes.
Sir, that Microsoft Edge browser of Microsoft provide the option for annotate, sir. If
Yeah,
you
I
open-
don't use. My system is a Linux system. I cannot open the Microsoft Edge.
Okay.
Sir, are you using Fedora?
Yeah, Fedora.
Okay, sir. I'll see if there are any issues which they have reported.
Yes. Yeah, that will. I am seeing some. I think it's almost very primitive. It appears now. Doesn't provide
Yes, sir.
anything. Terrible.
Sir,
I have a whiteboard, but it's
Sir?
only yeah.
sir, if you can, like, are you able to present in Zoom, sir? Like, are you comfortable in
I have
writing
no
in Zoom
problem.
platform?
I have no problem. But I think the Zoom timings
sir,
are
then-
very less, no? In 45 minutes that will get over. So every 45 minutes we have to join. Okay. I don't mind. I can do that. But Zoom license will be gone no? Within this month. I think the license is not there. Probably what the university has done is they have now purchased this Microsoft Teams. So Zoom's license is removed. So we can use only the free license, whatever we have.
Sir, what about Google Meet?
Google Meet, sir.
Google Meet also we can use, no problem. If it is okay for all. I thought Zoom is the best platform I found. It consumes less bandwidth and the voice lag is also less. I think Microsoft Team has a large voice lag, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, yes. So no problem. Zoom also, sorry. Anything, you tell me what by next class we will use the same thing.
Sir, I have set the website for whiteboard, online whiteboard. You can check it in the chat.
In the chat box, is it? Okay, let me check. I am opening that. It is opening still. Today's class we will stop here, but we will see how to. What's the next class we are having?
Sir, Monday.
No, your class.
Sir, we are an elective. No.
Sir, we have elective right 11 o'clock.
Okay, sure. So I should log off now, no? Before this classroom is used by. Oh, they have the same issue. Whiteboard is still opening. It's taking time.
So are you using Xorg or Wayland, sir, for your composite?
How do you find out? I think it appeared, I saw somewhere it is Wayland. Is there a way to switch to Xorg?
For Wayland, there is a flag in Chrome, sir, which allows you to share your screen properly. So you just need to enable this. You have to go to the flags and enable this. You can just open this in your browser, sir. This should fix it. I sent a link. Chrome flags.
Okay, I will check it out. I think meanwhile your flags, sir. You have one more thing. Oh, you can directly enable it, is it? Web RTC Pipewire support.
Yes, sir. Pipewire capturer.
So that I should simply say enabled, is it?
Yeah, if it is enabled, then you should be able to share your screen properly.
Okay. Okay, so I enabled it now. Relaunch.
Sir left the meeting.
नहीं वो relaunch किए ना तो join again.